So I'd like to welcome everybody back for another installment of our webinar series presented by the South Fairfax Chamber of Commerce. This webinar is going to be about a very touchy subject in terms of reopening reopening your businesses. Right now, everything's kind of up in the air. We're really playing things by ear. A lot of the business has been impacted differently. What we're going to do today is just kind of go over a general approach, a first step to kind of start to analyze the next step, okay? And which will lead us to our agenda. Um, our agenda today is going to be educating yourself, creating a game plan, healthy practice habits, communicate, and adapt, which we'll go over, uh, you know, kind of summing up everything together. So, in regards to uh, what's going on, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of businesses have been impacted differently. A lot of that stemmed from whether or not you were essential, not essential, and it's really no secret that as the screen says, it's no secret that the businesses have suffered amidst the pandemic. But keeping up on current reputable information can help ease the transition into reopening. Right now, knowledge is power, and knowing the state of our nation will help you understand the state of your business and its limitations. And please understand, this is not political. This is purely 100%. We are governed by rules, we are governed by laws, and we want to make sure that we as business owners, understand where we fall into specific phasings, where we fall into what we have to do in terms of requirements to actually open our doors. As business owners, our goal is to really run our business and have our business prosper. Well, during times like this, there's some businesses that are prospering. There's some businesses that are not as lucky, and it's important for us to kind of be mindful of where we're going to get our assistance and where we're going to get our information from, and how we're going to be able to utilize that information to implement it uh, towards running our business. So, like I mentioned, one of the other components right now is just going to be about phasing. The current phasing varies based on where you're at. Because we're the South Fairfax Chamber of Commerce, our phasings are, we're still in essentially phase zero, where we can't have a huge amount of people. We can't have any real amount of people coming in and congregating on a property. If you're outside of the area, certain restrictions have been lifted. So just keep in mind where you're getting your information from. Make sure that you understand what you can do, and then essentially make decisions that are going to help your business out and kind of endure. Next is going to be creating a game plan. So quarantining isn't just sit around time, it's planning time. It's easy to get complacent, but this time can be used more productively. Create your action plan using the reputable sources discussed in the last slide. And that includes analyzing do's and don'ts, constantly updating your plan, seizing opportunities, and don't wallow. Um, I'd like to kind of put you back before you opened your business. So when you got everything set up, you were like, okay, this is my business. I'm going to get this set up. I'm going to start this. Well, it wasn't like you just kind of woke up one day and you were there. You actually had your business running and it was just functioning fine. You set up your action plan, you set up your business plan, you set up your to-do list. You made sure that you've got your, if you were a product-based business, you got your supplies. If you were something that required team members, you started looking into getting an employee base. So you created a game plan. This really is no different. We hit a hurdle, okay? Um, and essentially, effectively, businesses have gone down, well, the vast majority of them. But that doesn't mean we can't create a game plan going forward. If we plan and then strategize and then implement the strategy, then we can adapt, overcome, and succeed. So in the plan approach, like the current plan approach, and this is just my opinion on it, I kind of think at this point, when in regards to where you're in a better position than you were when you first opened your business. Okay, when you first opened your business, there were a lot of uncertainties. You didn't know where you had probably an idea of your customer base, you had an idea of what you were going to do, but you didn't have the experience that you have now. The cool thing is now you know where your customer base is, you know what you have to do to get things done. You have probably a good working profit and loss margin, and like ideas on where your ROI is at, uh, where your money is to be made, if you will. Okay. The downside right now is just because of the lack of everybody going out, there's a lack of people, but we can still take that and use the information. I always tell my team, knowing your strength is a strength, but also knowing your weakness is also a strength. Because if you know what your weakness is, you can play on it and make sure that you kind of have a game plan to go against what your weakness is. Um, so, and one of the things that I've done personally in terms of what I've did when this whole thing started taking place was in my game plan. I increased my social media. I reached out to all my customers. I kind of let them know we're still here. We're still here, taking care of them. I explained how you can contact me. So there's a lot of things that I did to be proactive instead of reactive when I was dealt the cards that we were all dealt. So, and one of the quotes I definitely did want to mention during this one is, those that don't learn from the past are doomed to repeat it. So just kind of keep that in mind and learn from mistakes, learn from what's going on, and start creating a game plan going forward. Next is definitely a huge topic, and that's going to be on healthy practice habits. So you should always be adopting healthy habits, but go the extra mile when you reopen. Make your customers, employees feel safe. That includes socially distanced waiting areas, distance chairs, tables, redesign the layout of your office. And I'd like to pose a question for you. Who exactly are you doing this for? I like to call my office. In fact, I'm probably in my office more than I'm in my house, and that includes sleeping hours. But I like to call my office my sanctum of safety. Okay, I feel comfortable here. I come to my office. I know where my stuff is. I know I have this feeling of comfort when I walk in my office. The question though is, do your customers feel that way? Do your employees feel that way? Because that really is where it counts. Because if you can make all the money you need on your own, what do you need everybody else for? But at the end of the day, you have to run a business, and your business includes customers, employees, and all that good stuff. So it's really important that when you start establishing healthy habits for social distancing, depending on what phase you're in, and that's where kind of educating yourself on what the requirements are, and then maybe even going beyond that to make sure that your customers and your employees feel safe. Because if they don't feel safe coming in, then at the end of the day, you're going to have a greater challenge overcoming what's happening right now. Um, so in terms of making plans, I made a couple of notes. So one of the things that you really want to do is kind of figure out if you want your employees to wear masks or gloves. A lot of businesses are doing that, and it's really it's part for the safety of the employees to make them feel comfortable, but also for the customers that come in. If a customer comes in and they're not wearing a mask, There's some businesses that are telling them to go away. You want to set up a strategy and a game plan as far as how you want to act and react towards those specific things, because your team members are going to be looking for you to you for guidance. Okay, and that kind of goes to our next slide, which is communicating. Be a dependable business owner and communicate with your customers and employees. Transparency leads to productivity. That includes debriefing your employees regularly, creating clear and concise in-office signs, and ensure patrons know their limitations. So communication is key. Communication is probably going to be your number one strategy to overcoming this obstacle. And the reason why that is important is because if people are if there's open communication, people feel more comfortable, and people feel more comfortable, then they're going to visit your business more, or your employees are not going to call out sick as often. And I've run into a few situations where some of my customers have told me that employees have gotten, they feel sick, so they stay home. So the question really then is, where do you draw that line of I've got the sniffles, or I've got some symptoms of COVID? So these are the type of things that you need to start drawing out ahead of time and start thinking it through in advance, and that's part of your game plan process. You want to make sure that your team knows where to call, um, what the procedure is and protocols as far as if they were to get sick, if somebody comes in. That was another situation. I had a friend of mine. They have a cafe. And they actually shut down quite early in the process because they did not feel comfortable having so many people coming in, because they could not determine who was sick. So the question is, does your business suggest that you go out and buy equipment to test fevers, to make sure that anybody that comes in doesn't have a fever? Um, there's certain things that you can do, but setting up your game plan, communicating with your customers, with your employees, to make sure that they understand how you want to do things is extremely important. Um, let's see, then adapting, and we're going to go over a few other things. In fact, actually, I'm going to hop back one more thing. When it comes to communication, um, setting up protocols, and I do have some notes as far as what certain things you want to think about. So like employees with masks or gloves, like I mentioned earlier, do you want to have hand washing stations? Do you need to supply hand sanitizers on your counters, or other public areas? Um, so do you want to install sneeze guards over the serving areas? That would be a hopeful yes. But the key thing there is thinking it through. Um, and then, but most important thing is ask your customers. And this is actually really important, because one of the things I mentioned earlier that I did to adapt is increase my social media. Uh, when you start having the ability to have people come in here into your business, take that opportunity and start trying to increase your social media presence, because if you increase your social media presence, you're going to have a means of communication with your customers. If something happens and we have to change back to a lower phase, phase 0 again, or phase 1, that kind of thing, as things progress outwards. Because if something comes back, or there's another pandemic in the future, we want to make sure that we're prepared. So start increasing your means of being able to communicate with your customer base, because at the end of the day, your customer base is where you're getting your income from. So you want to make sure that you have a healthy means of connecting to your customer base. And that actually kind of segues into adapting. Nothing is set in stone. Be sure to adapt to whatever the pandemic throws at you. And as you see there, there's cogs, and the cogs are adapt, overcome, and then succeed. So if you can adapt and start thinking things through and being proactive, um, you'll be able to overcome the challenges ahead of you, and you'll be able to succeed in enduring. And make no mistake, there's a few businesses that are definitely prospering from the pandemic, but there's quite a few businesses that aren't. And this is my personal opinion. My personal opinion is game plan, and this is what my strategy has been since the beginning. My game plan was not to increase revenue or do anything like that. Really, my game plan was to assure my customers that we are still there for them, and we're going to be there to answer questions, take care of them. But the whole purpose of all that was so I can endure the storm. And as far as my personal opinion goes, it's not about making a whole lot of money, because honestly, you already know if your business is in that realm, you're probably not on here, okay? Because you're probably busy working. However, if you are on here, then, or if you're watching this webinar uh, posted on the South Fairfax Chamber of Commerce's website, then the likelihood is that you're trying to get ideas on how to actually endure the storm, and that's really it. That's really where everything kind of stems from, uh, and why we're doing everything we can to be so proactive on taking care of our community and making sure that South Fairfax area kind of still endures. And I mean, I opened my business in this area because I thought the community was tight, and that's one of the reasons why I volunteer my time to come here and do this, because at the end of the day, I want to know that the great people that I've met along the way are still doing business, and Lorton is still thriving, and South Fairfax is still growing, and it means a lot to me to make sure that people endure the storm. Okay, as I always say, find your silver lining, and we're definitely going to get through it together. Next is I'd like to take a moment to actually give a heads up for tomorrow, Thursday, May 21st. We have our virtual launch party happy hour, okay? And I'm confident that'll be on. So if you're watching this in a future webinar, that happy hour will be on our webpage as well. The best way that you can actually come to this is by following us on Facebook, Twitter, or LinkedIn. And what we'll be able to do is you'll see the post on there. And if you see the post, we definitely would love to have you come and join us. We've got some exciting news to share. On top of that, it's going to be just a great time to break away from the normal routine and have a little fun. Okay. So, but just understand the South Fairfax Chamber of Commerce is definitely here for you, and this is just one of the ways that that we're going to be able to show that to you. And last but not least, I'd like to thank Carla Olivo, our Assistant Executive Director, who helped put this on. My name is Casey Whitmarsh. I am a local business owner, okay? I want to thank everybody for attending, but before we sign off, I do want to ask if anybody has any questions or if there's anything that people want to go over. All right. All right, I have one question here. Should businesses be prepared to offer masks for those customers who enter without a mask? That's a great question. So my sentiment is that you have to look at it from what's the ROI? What's your return on your investment on that? So if they're coming into your place and they don't have a mask, and you're requiring that they have a mask. Now, depending on what kind of foot traffic you have, but if your foot traffic is manageable, then offering a mask and having somebody take that away along with one of your business cards would actually be a great return on your investment, because the masks are what, maybe 30 cents, 80 cents, something like that, depending on the box that you get them in. So if you give that away and they now have that mask along with your business card, make sure that you seize that opportunity, kind of like what I mentioned earlier in one of the slides, as far as taking advantage of opportunities when they come at you. That very well could be how you get your name out for those customers. And then very well they could say, hey, where'd you get your mask from? Oh, I went to go to so and so business, but they wouldn't let you come in without a mask. But they gave me a mask, and now I have my mask. um, so definitely seize those opportunities. However, if you have a foot traffic that makes it uh, where the ROI, where it's going to be cost prohibitive to actually do that, then you've got to play that by ear. But if I did have that set up in my office, I probably would entertain the idea of actually getting masks. So I have another question. If I've been totally shut down, how do I let people know that I'm open, that I'm now open? Well, remember, like I said earlier, uh, those that don't learn from the past are doomed to repeat it. If you don't have a means of contacting your customer base, please, please, please take this as an opportunity to learn from a mistake. Because if you don't have a means of reaching out to your customer base, then what did you maybe fail to do while you had customers visiting you on a regular basis? Setting up an email lister, as far as contact information. Um, if you don't have a business, if it's more of like people coming in and out, and you don't feel comfortable setting up an email list, make sure at the very least people are liking you on liking your Facebook page. And like I mentioned in one of the previous webinars that we did, social media right now, those that were able to succeed and establish a healthy social media are having a greater success rate to enduring this storm, because at the end of the day, everybody is working virtually. Just about everybody's working virtually right now. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that you're planning ahead. Make that part of your game plan that we talked about earlier, is to actually set up a means of actually finding out who your customer base is, how they prefer to be communicated with. You very well, if you're in a shop basis, you could have this person that comes to you every month, and they might not come in and spend thousands of dollars every month, but at the end of the day, they're one of your regular customers. They're going to be the type of person that would put a review up for you. They're going to be the type of person that would be happy to share the message that you're back open. So having an idea of who your regulars are is really important. um, Next is another question I have here is, what if employees don't want to wear masks? Can it be a requirement of employment? That's a great question. I'd have to say, if the employees don't want to wear a mask and it's based on safety and protocol, um, hmm, that's actually a great question. I might have to actually do some research on that one. Um, if You could always take a proactive approach or a reactive approach on that one, regrettably. A reactive approach would be, if an employee doesn't want to wear a mask, then you put them doing a duty that doesn't put them in front of the public. But at the end of the day, if the employee doesn't want to wear a mask and your goal is to make sure that your customers feel safe and secure, and they don't feel safe and secure because said employee doesn't want to do that, um, I wouldn't, I personally would look at it as a coaching session to my employee, or a restructuring for my employee base. Okay, and a lot of that has to do with um, part. I love this old expression. You're either part of the steamroller or part of the pavement. Okay, so uh, join the steamroller because the steamroller stays afloat. Uh, but understand, this webinar is not designed to give you as far as legal advice. I would definitely, if you do have something like that and it goes against what your protocols are for safety and security and well-being of your other employees and your customer base, you could always reach out to the Board of Labor for Virginia and kind of see what the protocol is in place for that, because this really is an unprecedented time. Those kind of questions actually can pop up, and you just have no idea. So doing your research in advance to reputable sources will give you a better position to make a solid decision that's not going to inadvertently affect you negatively later on. If I want customers to wear masks or stand or sit in a certain area, how do I let them know that upon entering? Signage. Signage is key. People can claim ignorance is bliss, but when you have a big, bold sign sitting right in front of you, please stand right here, okay? Please go in that direction. Then there's really not much people can say on that. But if you just expect to have somebody to tell them as they walk in and then expect them to adhere to it later on, you're really going to put yourself at a disadvantage and cause some potential negative conflicts. Make sure that you're putting proper signage up. Make sure that you're actually letting people know this is how we're doing business and this is how we're protecting you. And that's kind of a key thing. Presentation is everything, okay? You could say, you can't go there. Or you could say, actually, that area is a little bit more off limits. We prefer you to actually go around this way. And a lot of that's because we wanted to protect your safety and your well-being. So we're having everybody do this because this is how we're able to clean everything as people are walking out. So make sure that you are taking 2 seconds, because it's a very stressful time. And that's probably another thing that you need to put in your game plan is some decompressing time for yourself, because it is stressful. It is unprecedented. You're really playing a lot of things by ear. And you really want to make sure that you are kind of staying in your mind and keeping healthy within your mindset, so you can actually approach everything as with the least amount of stress as possible. Do you think we will bounce back, or will Corona come back? Um, well, if you search my name and you know the type of business I represent, okay. Actually, I'm in insurance, so so um, I have been doing this for 20 plus years, and your business, your profession kind of makes you slightly jaded in your philosophies, mindsets, and stuff like that. In my personal situation, I am the preparer. So in other words, if you ask me personally, I would prepare for this coming back, because all it takes is a certain degree of smart people to say statistically this thing is going to come back with a vengeance in October. I'm going to make sure that I'm going to do everything I can to prepare for that next coming, because if it doesn't come, well, then I've just taken a few bits of time to prepare for it. But if it does come, that preparation could be key for me enduring an even greater storm. All right. And now, just to let everybody know that's on the meeting, please remember tomorrow night we will be hosting our launch party. So we would definitely appreciate everybody that's here to come on, see the new things that are going to be taking place with the South Fairfax Chamber of Commerce. Amongst the webinars, there's actually a lot of other amazing things that we're doing to help our community out to endure the time, grow, and then prepare for the future. Does anybody else have any other questions? All right. Well, once again, I'd like to thank everybody for showing up. If you'd like to stay up to date on what we're doing within the community or what others are doing. That's one of the things that the South Fairfax Chamber of Commerce's social media page does. And one of our webinars that we went over, we explained how there's an ebb and flow, a give and take to any type of relationship. One of the things that we do is we actually try to help promote other members within our community as well. So by following us, you'll be able to actually be try to stay up to date on what other things are going on, what other people are doing to help others out, or any secrets to their success. But thank you guys for showing up. We certainly appreciate it, and we look forward to seeing you all tomorrow and at future webinars.